Guys, good morning. Right, let me first of all make a login. I forgot the password, so just give me a moment for this. Hmm. So we have started with a topic called collections, and we have discussed what is a list collection, by the way. And now let's start with the different methods of a list collection. See, I have told you that all of those collection, like list, either it is list or set or map. In the internal representation of metadata, these all are classes. Internally, the physical representation of them actually is what? They are classes. They are classes. So when they are classes, they must have methods. Yes, they do have. They do have. So whatever the operations that you can perform with a collection, and understand you can perform a lot of them. If we would consider arrays, because arrays is also a form of collection with so many of the drawbacks, so many of the restrictions. But again, array is also a collection. But then what array could provide is just a retrieve operation and a store operation. You can either use an array to insert the elements, or you can use an array to fetch all of those inserted elements. Whatever you have stored inside the array, you can fetch them or you can insert some. So basically, array is a kind of bipolar element. It does have only two things. Either you can store something, you can retrieve something, right? But when we consider lists are far beyond that. Not just list, every collection is far beyond that. They provide you, apart from retrieval and insertion, they provide you a far more facilities. So we have started with, like, yesterday, what are the things? So if you wanted to insert something, there's a method called as add, and this method has two different flavors. With the same name, you could have two different forms of it. If you use an add method, so every method must always be used along with the object name, and that we already know. See, class have members, isn't it? I'm repeating this so many times. I wanted this concept to understand very thoroughly. So every member of a class, the members could be all those methods. The members could also be the variables which you have defined. So if you wanted to access any member of a class, though it's a variable, though it's a method, you first of all would require to create an object. In a user-defined class, the creation of object is done in some other way. But in case of collections, you have to create an object like this. You have to create an object like this. So I have given a name for that, LST element. So it's a list collection list of string. So with this name, LST elements equals to new list, and make this as a default constructor. So this is going to be a syntax for you to define an object to create the list collection every time, right? So it would be like collection name dot method name, collection name dot method name, right? So LST elements dot add plain element. So it is going to be appended at the last or last plus one, whatever you wanted to say, and then add with two parameters, index position and element. So if you have given an index position, the element is going to be added on that. Then add all is to get everything from a different collection, copy and paste, simple. The next is Boolean is empty. So is empty is a function. It's not a procedure. It's a function. Why it's a function? Because it is returning a Boolean value, true or false. So is empty would going to take care of this. And see, I'm going to tell you one thing. Is empty is going to be, we are going to use this almost every time. Whenever you would be using a collection inside a program, I would tell you one best practice. I'm going to tell you about a best practice. I'm going to tell you about something that you always have to use before using a collection. And there, this function is empty is going to play a vital role in that, a very important role. We're going to see what is that best practice, but let's first of all concentrate on these functions and their functionalities. So whenever you have this is empty, for example, you take the name of the array, take the name of the collection and put like lst element dot is empty. So this always is given inside an if statement because it would return true or false. It would return true or false. So if you have used this inside if this this collection is empty, and if it would return true, that means the collection doesn't have any values inside it. It's blank. Its collection is blank. All right. So I could print like system collection is empty. Otherwise, if it return false, is empty, and it returns false, it's empty, and it returns false. It means the collection have few values. It could be even though there is one value, that means collection is not empty. So if it is not empty, we could print it like, and we are just up. I mean, that was just an example, but we are going to make a use of this is empty on very regular basis, and you're going to see where. All right. Now size would return always an integer. Size would count how many number of elements does a collection have. If a collection have 10 elements, if for example, if this collection LST elements, if it have 10 values, 10 elements inside this, and if you would have given this function like LST elements dot size, so it would going to give you 10, always an integer, yaad rakho. It would always return an integer value, and that integer represents how many elements are being there inside your collection, right? Then we have index position get, not index position, we have get. Get is used to get the element on a particular index position. For example, if you wanted to see what is there on number 2, what is there on number 3, these are what? These are the index positions, right? So get 2 would return you India. Get 3 would return you Hyderabad. So that get function always returns the element. It returns the values based on what? Based on the index position. Get. And then Boolean contents would use to make a comparison. For example, I wanted to search in the entire collection. I wanted to search. Is there is any value called as Japan? Is there is any value called as Australia? If I wanted to search for a particular element, understand? If I wanted to search for a particular element, then I am going to make a use of contains. Contains again would give you true or false. So like example, lst elements dot contains, and you say India. So it's going to search it out, in the entire list. अच्छा यहाँ एक चीज और समझो. If for example, if there are two USs and I have given like USA, if contains USA. So even though if there are 2 or 3, because yesterday I told you one thing about list collection. List allows to have the duplicate elements, right? Set doesn't allows you. Set doesn't allow you. But list collection typically allows you to enter the duplicate elements. So if there was already an element whose value was USA and you have inserted it once again, it's not going to stop you at all. It's not going to stop you at all. All right, it would going to accommodate this whole thing. It would going to be accommodate all these things, right? So basically, now what would happen in contains? See, Contain would always look for the first occurrence. If it found USA on the index number 1, it's not going to check for any another value, because we are not counting the number of occurrence of this element. That could be done in a separate way. That could be done. That could also be done. But then it would be a separate way for this. Contains would just, if it occurs, if it found the first occurrence, this means the element is present. It means the element is present. It's not going to go for the second occurrence for that, right? So that was contained. That was contained. Now index of. See the get element in the get, you have to give the index position. According to index position, it will going to fetch the value. Inside the get function, you give an index position. You give an index position, it will going to fetch the value of that particular index position. Whereas in the index of, in the index, you give the value, and in return, it would going to give you the index position. So if for example, if you would give Hyderabad or maybe US, so it would going to fetch it out. It would going to find it out. What is the index number of that? So index of, you have to name the element. You have to name, for example, index of Japan, index of India, and in return, it would going to give you. In return, it would going to give you the index position. For example, if you would give index of India, so it would going to return you 2. All right, get 2 will return India. In the get method, you will always give index numbers, right? You'll always give index numbers. So get of 5 will give you Australia. Get of 6 would give you Japan. Get of 7 would give you China, and like that. All right. Whereas index of, if you could give index of Japan, would return you 6. Acha. If, for example, you mention any such element which is not there. For example, you mention a country like Dubai. Dubai is not a country, right? Dubai is a city. Oh, anyways, whatever it could. If you're asking for a value which is not there inside the collection, for example, index of Dubai, but then the value is not present inside this collection. All right, index of Dubai. So what is going to be written in that case? -1. In that case, the value would be -1. So if after giving index of, if you are receiving -1, where's the method? If you are receiving -1, all right, in that case, it means that this particular value is not there inside the collection. So that was about index of. So if you are receiving -1, Japan is there, but that was just an example. For example, Dubai, right? Because Dubai is not there. So you are going to receive -1 for that. Index position. Oh, remove, not index position, remove. So if you wanted to remove one particular element, only a single element, then you have to make a use of remove, and you have to give index position. So remove 1 or 2 or 3 or 7, whatever. If you give the index position, that particular element is going to be get removed. If you wanted to flush out everything out of the queue, you don't wanted anything, because you wanted the whole collection should become empty, then we make a use of clear statement. So clear would clear everything. It would delete all of the element inside the collection. Whereas remove would remove a single element, right? I hope you understand that. Sort is used to sort the elements in the descending order. You can write down this difference again. I have told you to draw a table. So in third, I guess this is third point. Please write it down. In the parameter, in the parameter column, you can write down sequence of element. In the parameter, you can write down sequence of elements. In the parameters, you can write down sequence of elements. Now inside the list collection, you will write down not sorted by default. Not sorted by default. In the list collection column, you can write down not sorted for by default. Whereas in your what is that? Set collection. In the set collection, you can write down in the set collection, you can write down sorted in ascending order by default. So every element inside a sort collection is already in ascending order. Sorted in ascending order by default. So every element inside a set collection, it is already sorted. It is already sorted. Whereas in the list collection, it is not sorted. And because it is not sorted, if you wanted to sort the elements, then there is a method for that. There's a method called a sort. There's a method called a sort. See, listen one thing very carefully. There are so many methods inside list collection. Almost half of them are going to be cut out when we'll go to the set collection. Set collection have very less number of methods. Like right now, I can project one thing and you could also understand sort method is not there for the set collection. Why? Because we have just have written a reason. List collection doesn't sort the elements. If you wanted to sort them, particularly in ascending order, you have sort. If you wanted to do it in descending, you have to go through programming. A to Z, it is going to sort. If you wanted this Z to A, then do it with the help of program. Write a program in such a way that it's going to sort the element from Z to A, descending order. But at least for the ascending, we have a method. But then the elements, they are not sorted by default. There's no way. But when you are when you store the element in set collection, we're going to see that as well. So the elements, they are always sorted. They are already sorted. So if the elements inside a set collection is already sorted, obviously there is no sort method for the set collection. That is what I'm trying to say. List have so many methods. Set have almost half of them. Half of them are being cut out. Clone is used to create a copy of this existing collection. Boolean equals was going to make a comparison of one collection with another collection. Right? And then set is used to insert a particular element. Set is used to insert a particular element on a particular position. Now this is we have already seen with add method, right? But what is the difference I'm telling you? The difference I'm telling you. See, I told you, if you would give an add with just an element, it's going to be appended in the last. If you would get, for example, inside in add, you have given an index position along with the element. For example, you have given LST elements at 1 on the first position, not first, but one number position, that is second actually. On the index number 1, you wanted to insert this element. Previously to this number, this address, there was an element called India. Now, when you are inserting USA, so obviously USA is going to be inserted in that position. But what about India? Are we going to lost it? No. This every element is going to be shifted one position right. They are all getting shifted. So on number 1, it was India. Now it gets shifted to number 2. On number 2, it was Hyderabad. It gets shifted to number 3. On number 3, it was something else. It gets shifted. So this is how, this is how what does happens with add method. Add would not going to overwrite this element. This element would be inserted. This element would be inserted. And all of those elements which was there previously, they are going to be shifted one position right. Understood? Now, that was add. Now, if you have a set method, set also come up with index position and an element. But set typically would overwrite. That means this was the initial structure. On 0th position, we have hello. On 1, we have welcome and Apex and India. Now, if you would say 1 along with set, not add, along with set, if you give 1 in Australia, so that means on the first index number in number 1, not first index number 1, Australia is going to be get inserted. What about the element that was previously over here? That is getting lost. that is getting lost. So the first position previously was having welcome, one number position, not first. I'm always making this. So now one number position, the first. Sorry. I think I require a strong coffee. Okay. So on the number one position, we were having welcome. Now on the number one position, you have Australia. You have Australia. So that is an overwritten. That gets overwritten. So majorly, this is a difference between a set method and a add method, right? Anyways, chalo. So let's try to take certain examples of this. These were all. अब इसके ऊपर कुछ examples लेते हैं, and we're going to implement. I would take a few of them, and you go with all this. I just try to implement few of them, and then we'll maybe we could take this program as well. Let me do one thing. Let's copy and paste it. Because these are just an examples. I wanted to make you understand the second bulkification. That is more important. So I'm just copying and pasting that. So let's go to the execute anonymous window. From here and paste it out. Chalo. I would be explaining you at the same time. Don't worry. See, I have defined a collection. How to define the collection? This is a syntax. This collection typically is going to store all string values, and that's why list of string. Sorry. List of string with any name. And user given name. So what is that? Customer name equals to new list of string and make this as a default constructor. Right. That is how we would be defining collection. We would be creating collection every time in the same way. And now, so now you just have defined the collection. You haven't inserted anything into that, right? And moreover, what is a major difference between defining a collection, defining an array? While defining an array, you have to also specify the size of that. That's compulsory. All right. But the collection, see, there is nothing, there's no value I have mentioned. I have not defined what is going to be the size because array follows the static memory allocation, right? Whereas your collections, these list set and map, they have something called as dynamic memory allocation. They don't require size to be get defined in the beginning, right? So if you wanted to print the size, let's see what happened. We haven't mentioned any size as of yet, and also we haven't stored any element. So I just wanted to execute this highlighted portion. So I'm going with the second option, execute highlighted. Let's see the output of this. So the collection size is what? 0. Why it is 0? Why it is 0? Because we haven't stored any element into that, right? Now I would start adding the element. To add the element, there is a method add. There's a method add. It's having two flavors. Along with the index position or simple. So I am not interested in the index position. I just wanted to add the elements. So this array name dot method. Array name dot method. So I've added all these elements. And after adding elements, what is going to be the size? So once again, I am printing that size. Previously also I did printed. But after entering elements, right? So let me now try to print up to this. So let's see what happens. So you have entered like 5 elements, right? So after adding element, the collection size is what? 5. And this clearly indicates it's a dynamic memory. You enter the element, you insert the element, it would start expanding. You remove the element, it would start getting shrink. All right, the size is increased and reduced based on the insertion and deletion of the elements. That is what is a dynamic memory allocation. Now I wanted to, for example, all these elements we have added, we wanted to print them out. Right? So you can go like this. That is a very inefficient method, just giving the name of array into system, does give the name of collection into the system.debug. So what is the drawback? What is the limitation of this? Let me try to show you that. If you would print the elements, you have added Ramesh, India, and all these elements. 5 elements you have added inside the collection. You wanted to print them. You wanted to print them. But if you would print it like this, in the system.debug, you have given the name of the collection directly. So what is going to be happen? Let's see. So I would be going to print them like this. So the output would come up is in this way. The elements, they are going to be listed out in this single line. Now see, this has a limitation that I was talking about. You can, I mean, if you are printing the elements like this, it start from here and it's going to be ended up here. So the number of elements that are going to be accommodated up to this, only those elements, only that number of elements is going to be get printed. So if my collection would have, let's say 1,000 elements, let's say 100 elements, it's not going to be accommodated into single line. After last element, ऐसा वहां पे डॉट 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 रहेगा, जिसका मतलब इसके आगे भी और कुछ है. ठीक है. So this is not the correct way to display the elements. Rather, we should use loops for that. Somewhere in the program, I have used that. I guess over here. So if I wanted to print the elements, but in the next in every element in a separate line, every element in a separate line. So I must have used something. Yeah, this say this. Say this. Let me try to get this code over here. So this is also printing the elements, but this time see I have make a use of enhanced for loop. And you know the format of enhanced for loop. Enhanced for loop have two partitions, and that is being separated by the colon. Colon acts as a separator. In the right hand side, you have to mention the name of that collection array from where you are getting the elements. So we are getting the elements from a collection, a list collection called customer names. And every element inside this is a string. So you have to mention the data type and make a use of any object, a temporary object. And that object you will be printing. So it would, it's going to be iterated automatically from first element to the last element. And it's going to print, get the element, first element, store it inside this, enter into loop, print that value. Come back, get the second element, store it inside this, print that. Third, fourth, and this goes on till the last element. When the last element has been done, this loop is going to be terminated automatically. So Apex is very beautiful. I'm saying you, Apex is very beautiful. All right. So let's try to print in the same way. So if you would be printing them in a single line, you cannot print every element for a big collection. All right. So this is the efficient way to do that. So I'll execute highlighted. I'll execute highlighted. So see, this way of printing is not good, but this way of printing is absolutely right. Right? So print every element in the single line by a loop. And go with them. I mean, go with this program. This program have few other methods as well. For example, if you wanted to insert the element on a particular index position, how to do that? So add we have already used, right? Add we have already used. The another flavor of add is, I mean, with the element, you also are mentioning the index position. So on that index, I mean, this element is going to be inserted. So if I would print after this, if I would print after this, if I would print after this, see what is going to be happen in that case. After inserting an element to a particular index position. So after inserting the elements of a particular index position. See. So previously it was like Ramesh, India, Apex, Welcome, Power. And after inserting the element, it's like Ramesh and then India. India was being like replaced by Australia, but then it actually not get overwritten. because we have used add method, not set method, right? So on like zeroth index, it was Ramesh. On the first number one index, it was India. Now on the first, it was Australia. And from India onwards, every element have been shifted one position right, one position ahead, आगे की तरफ, right? So go with this program. This program would demonstrate you the use of almost every methods, you know, add all. So you would define an array. You have the values. You wanted to get this value. You make a use of add all, and you wanted to search for a particular element, whether this element is inside the array, inside the collection or not. You'll make a use of contain methods for that, right? So and to remove any method, let everything sort the entire array. So go with this program. Go with this program. It's pretty simple thing to understand, right? Go with this. Let me take the next topic. All right. I have taken this program in the past, but that time itself I have talked about one limitation. That time itself I have talked about one limitation. Let me try to discuss on that thing, because that was a very essential thing, and I have told you we are going to discuss this in the coming future as well. Yes, yes. Let's understand this program once again. See, in this program, I was attempting to insert 100 records. I was attempting to insert 100 records of firing manager. What I did, I have defined a loop of 100, loop of 100. Counter is 1, counter is 1 to 100, that means 100. I created the object of hiring manager, HR. HR represents the object, and with this HR, I have inserted. Now see, one important thing. This is my loop. This is my loop. Loop is from here to here. So this entire thing is the body of loop. Within the loop, you have given an insert state within the loop. So if you are giving this loop, for example, in this case, you are this loop is going to be get iterated for the 100 times. That means the insert statement would also going to be get executed for next 100 times. If you like you give a value over here like 200, if the loop is getting executed for next 200 cycles, if it is going to be iterated for 200 times, the insert statement would also get executed for next 200 times. But this is not possible. Can any one of you please tell me at this moment? Let me give you this command to unmute yourself. Yes, you can do it now. How many DML statements we could fire in a single transaction? What is the governor limit of firing a DML statement? Yes. Come on. Come on. What is the governor limit of how many DML statements? Not just insert. I'm talking in bulk. Insert, update, delete, whatever you are using, upsert, merge. How many DML statements could be fired, could be executed in a single transaction?
150 DML statements.
Exactly. Very good. Very good. You can maximum fire 150 DML statement. All right. That was first question. Now second question. What would happen? What would happen if you will give more than 150 DML statements? What is that error? What is that error which you will going to get if you would give more than 150 DML statements? Yes. What would happen? What would happen? Come on. I'm sure about this. When I was explaining this, I also have shown you the error that time, and I have told you to remember that error. I'm absolutely sure because I always remember my words. I'm absolutely sure that I have told you to remember the name of error as well. System.limit exception. Too many DML statements. 151. System.limit exception. Limit has been exceeded. Too many DML statements. Why? Because of so many DML statements. How many of them? 151. Actually, it goes beyond, but the error code is 151. Error code is 151. Please remember this all. These are very essentials from the point of interview as well. From the point of interview, this is also again is very important. All right, chalo. So with this impression, we got to know about one thing. When we were doing this program, we got to know about one thing that maximum, if you do it like this, you can insert up to 150 records. Maximum. Well, my intention that time was something else. I was telling you why we are learning. Why we are learning to insert the elements with the help of program when the same could be done from an user interface. For example, if I wanted to insert an hiring manager record, I can definitely go to the user interface, click on the new button, fill out the fields and save this. That is pretty simple and the easiest way to do this, right? So why should I do the same thing with the program? Which seems to be a little more complicated compared to this. So that time I was explaining to my intention was to tell you that, okay, yes, of course, you can definitely create a record from the user interface, but then try to understand one thing. This has a limitation. You can maximum create single record at a time, not more than that. If, for example, if you wanted to create 10 records, you'll have to repeat the same process for 10 times. Again, after creating every record, you go back, you click on the new button, enter the value, save it, and save it for the next time, next 10 times, next 100 times. All right. So my intention that time was to show you something else. But then again, I have talked about a future thing that Max, if you would follow this program, if you would give your DMLs inside the loop, listen this carefully, guys. If you would give your DML statement inside the loop, you are going to be hit by the governor limit very soon. So if you follow this technique, wherein you have given the DML inside the loop, you're always under the impression of governor limit. You have to work accordingly. So in this way, maximum you could insert 150 record. बस इससे ज्यादा नहीं. तो क्या होता अगर मुझे 15,000 रिकॉर्ड्स इंसर्ट कर? क्या हो अगर मुझे 5,000 रिकॉर्ड्स इंसर्ट कर? क्या हो अगर मुझे 10,000 रिकॉर्ड्स इंसर्ट कर? क्या हो? तो क्या मैं उसको 150 के चंक्स में डिवाइड करूंगा? दैट वुड टेक अ, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, दैट वुड बिकम अगेन इट बिकम्स वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड. इट्स गोइंग टू टेक a lot of time for this. So are we are restricted that we can only insert, update, delete, upsert, merge next 150 records? No, actually we can expand this up to 10,000. I'm going to tell you with the technique by which, listen, using a single DMLs you are going to learn very soon. It's an upcoming topic. At least I have introduced you. I have introduced you with insert statement. You know there is a DML called as insert by which you could physically insert a record inside the object. And there are few more Ds कि भाई बहन और भी हैं. Insert के साथ update है, delete है, merge है, upsert है. हम देखने वाले. So using a single DML statement, for example, insert, you can insert up to 10,000 records, not just 150. How we can do that? That is an upcoming topic. I guess we cannot take it right now because I have only 12 minutes. Also have to give you the time for QAs. So tomorrow you also have a class. I know it's Sunday, but you have a class. So tomorrow I will be explaining you one extensive use of collection. And after writing this program by tomorrow, you would be able to see this. See, number of records, 4,400, 2,000. You can insert. You can insert just by one DML. Up to 10,000 records you could insert. Up to, and that's the governor limit of your DMS. That's the governor limit. How many rows, how many records could be inserted, updated? So that is 10,000. How many DML statements could be used is 150, but we're not going to require it. Just by one program, just by one DML statement, a single DML statement, I could use more than 150. I could insert, update, or whatever. I can do this on 10,000 records. How? We are going to see it by tomorrow, right? And that is the most important use of a collection. Believe me, collections, they are used for so many purposes. The most important purpose is to bulkify the records, the bulkification process. We're going to see this by tomorrow. All right, that's all for today, folks. Any questions? Yes, any questions? Any questions? You don't have anything to ask me? That's good. I have so many things which I'm going to ask in the interview. Either you ask me now, I'm going to ask you later. All right, then. Have a great weekend. Saturdays are always good. But because we have holiday on Monday, Sunday is also going to be get awesome. Thank you so much for joining.